Tonight is Monday, April Fool's Day. I should have had something planned for that. I didn't do it. Samantha B, you need to think about that for the end. Something fun. Anyway, here we are again, welcoming into April a new group of experimenters, mostly men. What the heck has happened to the Mama G lifestyle? And I just want to take a moment to say day one. Woo! Like, Mama G, Samantha B, wow. Lots of activity today. Good for all of you working the experiment who have been in contact with us throughout the day. That is how you will be successful. Each one of you who has had interaction with Samantha B and Mama G today has learned several new things that will help you reach your goal sooner, faster, better. You know, that's what we're looking for. So the more you want to play the game, the more Samantha B and Mama G will do it with you. So be mindful of that and understand that it takes time to get our wealth of knowledge injected into you, that it will never happen overnight. So be patient with us, you newbies. Like, there's so much information to get to you. There's just not one answer for one thing. It's just kind of a whole mentality, a whole game plan, and we go from there. So we are going to go right over to Samantha B, sharing her wonderful calls.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cut this really short tonight, and I'm done. April Fools. I didn't do one thing, so I figured I'd try to start to do something. Man, my board is so full of content to talk to you guys about today. So I'm just going to get right to it. It is April 1st. I'm not fooling you. We have a ton of new experimenters in the house, and it's allowed to, or it's provided me with a lot of good content for everybody, whether you've been in the program for a while or not. So very excited for you guys. You are all, whether you are working your own exercise program or not, still needing to understand that we need 3 different things from you every single week. That's not every single day, every single week. So for my lifestylers, out loud, what do they need to include in their fitness macros? Cardio, mobility, and strength. Now, depending on their goal, they might be heavier on one end versus the other, but they still need to have elements of them all, and we can go over that together, okay? So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what the experiment is. And I want to remind you of my role, Gina's role, and your role, and the community's role in your development, okay? The Mama G's lifestyle was created for those who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, that have had trouble managing both or independently of each other, their nutrition or fitness, and therefore have not brought the whole thing full circle. So for those of you guys that are training like dogs, and by mean dogs, I mean just training hard and really finding pleasure, really seeing growth, not having injuries, just feeling super good in their skin, congratulations. I'm excited about your programming. I would love to talk to you about it and just get to know more about it and see how we can make it even better. For those of you guys that are constantly fighting progress, are encountering injuries, feeling tired, sluggish, or the time management of the gym is seeming like it's not helping your goal, that's where I need to hold your hand, okay? So the Mama G's lifestyle is not about getting you to run a race. It's not about getting you to bench your body weight. It's not about getting you to whatever. It's about getting you to develop a relationship with fitness and food and our other pillars that is under control and makes sense for what you're trying to achieve in your life, okay? So I want you guys to understand what your goal is, right? So if right now you're coming into the Mama G's lifestyle because you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, that is your main objective. to no longer become sick and tired and sick and tired. So if that means that overall your tissue health is not showing improvement, your workout plan is not working for you. If you have aches and pains and soreness regularly, if you are constantly trying to burn it from both ends, I am talking to you. We can improve your program, okay? Now, I want to remind you that there are definitely a lot of different goals going on here. So I want you to understand yours. You don't need to understand mine, but you do need to understand it enough that the purpose of my training is going to be different because my goal is different than yours. And the purpose of your husband's training is going to be different, the purpose than yours. Or your buddy's training is going to be different than yours because your goal is different than whatever. You see what I'm saying? You need to understand your goal. You need to own your goal, and you do not need to feel intimidated by not doing as much or doing more or whatever it happens to be. Maybe you need to, right now in your fitness macros, when I talk about fitness macros, I'm talking about strength training, mobility, which I usually incorporate core, and overall cardiovascular training as 3 different components, and understanding that they're 3 different components because they serve different purposes, okay? Now, when you are understanding your goal, you could be doing competition prep like myself, getting ready to compete in July, and I've got hefty goals coming up, so I'm rebuilding my competitive lifting, okay? So I am breaking it down inch by inch, movement by movement, and trying to put some mass on my legs so that I can lift bigger, okay? That's my particular goal. I also have a race prep goal that's independent of that goal because I want to be able to compete in a biathlon this summer. So that means I actually have to get into the water. So I have 2 different ones right there. Then there's all kinds of different goals. So there's competition prep, there's race prep, there's mass enhancement, lean boss enhancement, there's composition change, there's endurance. There's so many options for you to choose, but you need to know what you are working on, or I don't know how to help you. You can't say, my fitness is fine, I've been doing it forever, and it's great. Congratulations. That is not a great fitness program. If you are been doing the same thing for 10 years and you are not bored, you are a very, very special breed. Or you don't know that you could feel better than you already do. And that's kind of the fun and exciting thing about being introduced to new people. You don't know me from, I don't know, anybody off the street. There's no reason for you to trust me versus you've decided to sign up for this program, and guess what? You just introduced yourself to myself. So you are going to be able to get the information that I'm giving you on these calls and what you'll get from me independently from our exercise chats. Now, I want you to not focus so completely on that exercise goal the first month. The first month, I want you to be knee deep in your nutrition and trying to figure that out, because the number one thing that is going to stop you from any progress in any fitness related goal is your nutrition. Along with that is your recovery, which is 1, how often you train with stress, and 2, sleep. Actual sleep, okay? So, understanding your goal. When you send me your goal, it can't be vague. I want it to be very specific. I want you to say, I would like to, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you right now that I would like to snatch 70 kilos on the platform in July. I would also like to pull 85 kilos and clean and jerk on a platform. Simple. I would like to complete the biathlon with, I would really like not to be the last one out of the water. I would like to be like 3rd out of the last, so there's 2 other people behind me that I'm not like panicking that I'm going to be eaten by something in the water. So those are some goals, some very specific goals when it comes to competition prep or race prep. Now, let's say that Samantha B gets pregnant in the next minute, I don't know, whenever it happens to be. My goal at that point will completely shift, and it will be to maintain the amount of lean body mass that I have right now the entire time that I am pregnant. So I won't try to grow anything. I will try to hold on, which is what a lot of people need to do when they're living in the lifestyle when they've met goal. So maintaining amount of composition needs to come with resistance, needs to come with variable change, but that variable change does not need to be completely crazy. So I've got two spectrums that I want to kind of talk about, and one comes from kind of getting this like thought that maybe somebody was doing a program for a really long time and maybe not seeing any progress, but maybe seeing a little bit of tissue damage. And then also on the edge of the retrospect, like going into these classroom class settings and constantly having muscle confusion, therefore always breaking down tissue, and by training too often not being able to actually get any stronger. So let me first talk about why there are changes in programming. Okay, so when you are working a strength training program, I'm completely talking about strength training right now, and your goal of strength training is to apply resistance on tissue. This not only helps compositionally change or compositionally change, not actually change muscle to fat, but hold on to more muscle or compositionally grow muscle and reduce body fat, okay? Compositional change doesn't mean that you need to be hitting 1 rep maxes, but it does mean that you need to understand where your strength is at any given time so that you're constantly pushing in a correct percentage for you to exhibit growth and progress. So let's just say that I'm working a basic bodybuilding program, which is something that I don't do. But so let's just say that you're working a basic bodybuilding program, which I don't know, 75% of people that lift do bodybuilding type exercises. They're very muscle isolated exercises which put stress on specific tissue. Now, this can be incredibly awesome in order for you to actually tear muscle fibers, which is the goal in resistance training. But with repetitive stress to a muscle without the appropriate rest and or nutrition, you will break it down so much that you will see stress and or inadequate tissue health, which usually shows itself in pain. So pain and or inflammation at either an insertion or an origin is an issue, okay? So what should you do? Stop doing the movement is number one. Stop aggravating the tissue is number one. But number two is probably more important than number one. Well, I take that back. Number one, you should probably stop doing it so you actually get some rest. But number two is, what is the opposing muscle group? So if I am constantly training bicep, if I am just going bicep curl, I'm going open palm, I'm going closed palm, I'm going reverse palm, I'm doing rotational, I'm doing isometric, I'm doing eccentric, I'm doing controlled concentric. I am loading this tissue like it is crazy, but I'm not doing the same in the other portions of the arm. My triceps, getting exercises, I might do pull downs, but maybe I'm not getting the eccentric. I'm not working the eccentric. Maybe I'm not working a controlled concept. Maybe I'm not setting it into a lockout, or maybe it just doesn't fire as good as my biceps do anyway because of specificity of muscle, because we use pullers more than we use pushers. We use pushers more than we use pullers usually, but in the upper body, depending on what you do for exercises for your primary movement, could be the compromising movement. If everything I'm saying right now is going completely over your head, that's where you can ask me individual conversations. Okay, so if you are really good at strength training and you've got nagging injuries like elbow or shoulder or neck or whatever it happens to be for upper body, or if in lower body you've got nagging knees, you've got nagging ankles, you've got nagging hips, we can talk about it. Let's not just look at what hurts. Let's look at the opposing muscle group, and let's look above it and below it at both joints to make sure, one, they can stabilize, and two, they're not being overtrained or undertrained, okay? So with that being said, specificity when it comes to those exercises really comes up to how well you can recover through your workouts. What are you doing for activities of daily living that might be stressing those tissues even more? What are you doing in sport, or what are you doing in your other days lifting that are adding into the stress? Those are all things that need to be taken for granted, taking thought into. Now, if this is an injury that you've been dealing with, or soreness, or the tissue is not cooperating, maybe it's a technique issue when it comes to the breakdown of movements, which therefore also brings me to that specificity of movement. If you're trying to get really good at deadlifts or bench press or squats, you should know the ins and outs of that particular exercise from start to finish. It's not ever going to be just bench presses make you bench better. It's everything that helps you understand the bench press makes you better. So setting fourth sets, setting bottom sets, setting pause sets, working controlled eccentric sets, working controlled concentric sets, and feeling the breakdown of each movement. So if you're really struggling with, let's say, a movement pattern that you're regularly getting irritated, that's something that you want to video front, side, and back.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to shut everybody's cameras down because it sounds like we have a glitch going on here. So bear with me for a second, folks. Let me get in here and shut everybody's cameras off. 2019 should not have internet issues. That's annoying. All right, hopefully this will be better.
Back so that we can get a lot of views and we can see, one, where and when you break down, and two, what's the opposing muscle group doing and what's the joint above it and below it doing, okay? And at that point, we can assess it. Now, if you're lifting really heavy, you're gonna put stress on your joints. You just are. There's sleeves, there's braces, there's things that can help you with that applied force if you are strong enough to do it, and if you work a program that deloads you appropriately. Now, I was just having a great conversation with a friend of mine that deloads off of 60%, but doesn't bring down volume. So by not bringing down volume, there's still a lot of stress if they work a high volume program. And if you never bring down volume, you're always going to be putting a lot of tension on your body. So believe it or not, the best way to grow is to be able to pull back and then progress yourself through a movement. So basic bodybuilding strength programs that never bring you back to square one really don't give your body any time to actually recover. Therefore, you're really putting yourself in a position where you could become injured. So if every week you always go bench presses at 135 to 145 to 155 and you feel good, you go up, where is the regress and where is the progress? So your body never actually gets to reap the benefits from your month of training. I hope that makes sense. Now, remember I told you there was a flip side to this. So let's say that you go to Orange Theory, or you go to boot camp, or you go to CrossFit, or you go to Les Mills classes, or you do whatever, and they are constantly changing it up. There's CrossFit's a little bit better when it comes to that they don't use 100 different patterns, but there is definitely a different WOD each day, right? Where you're using the same movements, but in different rep schemes and times and whatever. So that's a little bit better, but it's the trying to reinvent the wheel all the time that these boot camps do, and the Orange Theories and whatever. So that your body's constantly guessing, which is sometimes awesome, but how can you improve on these postures when you don't get it right the first time? So there's no practice, there's no repetition, there's not enough repetition to see growth. You can't show repetition in just one class, right? You got to show repetition week after week, growing it, building it, getting better, feeling the position, slowing it down. That's where when you're doing those type of workouts, they're not strength training. They're actually cardiovascular or HIIT training exercises that use resistance, that apply that epoch of that effect. And that's where you get that nice metabolic effect. That's not the same as strength training and really becoming, what's the word? I hate it when I say, I almost did it again. Instead of saying, I'm going to say, I don't know, something else. But anyway, you're not going to become proficient, or you're not going to become a professional at it. I couldn't think of another word, but proficient was a good enough word. So there's a blessing and a curse to doing too much of the same thing and too much changing of things, right? There's got to be somewhat of a happy medium, and that's where I really like to, one, have my strength training, which I predominantly do weightlifting, so I'm trying to perfect every centimeter of my snatch and clean and jerk. But I like to do a little bit of muscle confusion, and I like to do a little bit of heart rate training in like a small AMRAP, like 15 minutes twice a week, or sometimes once a week, depending on what my schedule looks like. So it all really depends on what is your goal, right? So remember that my goal is competition prep and race prep. So in my competition, I need to be really good at the exercise that I'm working on. In my race, I need to be really confident that I can complete the exercises that I'm competing in, right? So for me, going to 7 days a week of Orange Theory or 7 days a week of a CrossFit class, that doesn't make sense for the specificity of my personal goal, right? So when you don't understand what your goal is, let's just say that you're trying to put on mass, then you're doing 3 hours of cardio. That doesn't make sense. But do you need some cardio, because we have fitness macros that include strength, mobility, and cardiovascular exercise? Because remember, the overall goal, no matter what, is to become better for the rest of it. We don't train the most important muscle in our body. We've got another thing going. And don't say your strength training at volume is your cardiovascular training, because we know that it is. And so with that being said, I hope that makes a lot of sense. I also hope that I've striked a lot of questions for you. So if you have questions, concerns, or comments, please don't hesitate to go on that WhatsApp chat. Holy crap, Sam. So let me get down my list. I didn't learn this overnight. Oh, okay. So my biggest thing is, though, that I didn't learn this overnight. I didn't learn how to train me or my clients, my athletes, overnight. I made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of growing pains. I had a lot of teaching moments. And the only way that you can grow is by making mistakes. So allow the mistakes that you've made. If you've got tissue damage, if you're always fatigued, if you're always sore, if you never feel good in a workout, that's also something that can change, right? If it's always a little too far out of reach, those are all things that you can grow from, and that can allow you to become better for the rest. That can allow you to take your training from training 5 to 6 days a week to maybe training 4 days a week, but then actually seeing more progress. And that's really, really, really where, especially in this new group of experimenters, we want you to focus on, right? I want you to really think about, where can we see progress? Because right now it's about making you feel better. With that being said, if you are training maybe 4 days a week, you might need to do a little bit more in those days and allow your rest days to be actual rest days. Now, that will allow you to free up your schedule a little bit, but it will also maybe make you need to eat in your session. And that's where, remember, you need to feel good in your sessions. I actually had to train twice a day. I never do this. And I actually sent you guys, or I posted my workout plan, but I did a lift off this weekend and hit 1 rep maxes for squat, bench, and deadlifts, which I never bench and I never deadlift. I do usually squat, but not until after an hour or so into a workout. And so I was super fatigued. I was changing out a lot of weight. So I was like, I can't really go through my programming right now. So my coach was like, listen, you don't have an option to not do it. If you've eaten and you've rested, I need you to get that workout in. So now today I have to add another meal and another snack just to offset the amount of time that I'm going to be exercising. So keep that in mind. You can ask us. We are your coaches now. The only way a coach can help is if they understand your program, and the only way that you can help you is if you understand your goals. So together, I do have a lot of conversations going on with some of you new guys. I do know somewhat what you're doing, but I want to know more about what you're doing, but more about what your goal is. And if you hear something that you don't want to hear, as in, listen, this doesn't make sense to what your goal is, be open-minded to changing what you've been doing, because you came to us because you were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I don't care if you tell me that, no, this part of your life works. It doesn't work because you've never had it work together. And if you've never had it work together, then it didn't work at all, okay? You can still be completely gifted in your sport or your activity, but we can make it better. Okay, we can make your core stronger. We can make your upper body stronger. We can eliminate some of the tightness in your lower back or your hamstrings, which could just be signs of overtraining. So I want you to continue communicating. I just want to throw out a quick little thing that Samantha B does work full time. I do have another business on top of this, so I won't always come back at you within 5 minutes. Sometimes I will, depending on what I'm doing, where I'm at. I do have office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays that I do a lot of my pre-logging out for you guys. I can answer a lot of questions day to day, but it won't necessarily be right when you need it. So please ask ahead of time. Make sure you know, you send stuff in advance, and if you get a lot of information into me in bulk, it's probably because I have office hours at that time. Last but not least, understanding your body, okay? Understanding your core, understanding your spine, understanding your low back pain, understanding your biceps, understanding your hamstrings, understanding above and below, and all those ramifications does not come by not taking the time to understand what you're doing, okay? So I had a couple of people reach out to me about tightness in different areas, and I awesome. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, how often are you training those muscle groups? How often? How active are those muscle groups, okay? So there's a little bit of assessment that needs to be done. There's a little bit of homework that needs to be done. So don't be surprised if instead of giving you stretches, I give you body weight evaluating movements that will allow you to assess the strength of that particular exercise. And if those exercises become challenging for you, that's something that you need to incorporate into your regular activity, okay? So that's homework for you. This does not happen by osmosis, and Mama G will, she probably says this every week. So you have to do the homework, like math class, which even now I am the math genius at my gym. You need to actually learn. You need to learn that your push-up position looks like crap. You need to learn that your upper back is not stable. You need to learn that you don't know how to activate your core. By not knowing that, be so thrilled, because that's something that can improve, that can, whether it eliminates pain, eliminates soreness, eliminates weakness in other areas. Don't think that I'm trying to say that in a negative way to put you down. I'm saying it as, yes, we found something to look at. Now, if you came to Mama G and Samantha B and everything was completely perfect, then there's nothing to grow on. But you came to us because things weren't working. So be very open-minded to maybe not changing everything, but maybe moving things around, implementing some new movements, implementing some new nutrition, implementing some extra work in the front end for you, maybe carving out what your days and weeks look like ahead of time. I did share with you guys what my week looks like. I know tonight I'm having pizza with ground turkey, mozzarella cheese, 2 tablespoons of pesto, spinach, and did I say tomatoes? Tomatoes on the top. That I do saute tomatoes and then I dump them on. And I have carrots on the side because I need more non-starchies. So that happens. I do change around the veggies. Sometimes I put broccoli on the pizza because I'm so wild. That happens because that's what works. And I do add a new recipe every once in a while. This week I'm doing the lemon chicken stew. it's called. Anyway, I'm doing that this week, which I think will be awesome. And there's just some things that are staples in my life. You know I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. When I don't sleep because I have a baby that crawls into bed with me and lays on top of my chest for 3.5 hours, when I already get like maybe 7 hours of sleep if I go to bed at 9, I have to cut training. That's just how it is. But you know, it doesn't cut and doesn't shift and doesn't change is my intake. Intake is my intake is my intake. And right now, being on a gain, I'm not ready to go down to competition weight. I'm not ready to dial back, but I eat pretty much the exact same things. And the only thing that changes is when my goal shifts and I need to make weight, or say I'm pregnant or whatever, then I'm going to try to gain weight again, but in a smaller parameter, right? Understand your goals, guys. Understand how to communicate your goals to me, and please be open to getting feedback and making changes, because ladies and gentlemen, you came to Mama G and Samantha B because you were ready, because you were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I want to let you know that Mama G will tell you, it's not about what you lose, it's about what you gain. And we're not just talking about gains, we're talking about gains as in knowledge, gains in about empowerment, and gains about when you know your body is doing the best that it can do for you, and gaining the appreciation of showing a lifestyle that's healthy to your friends, your family, and to create a community that's healthier because you decided to take your health in your own hands. And I want to let you know that I am Samantha B, and you, my friends, are better for the rest.
Excellent job, Samantha, as usual. All right, so let me get out of here. So we know the problem was Samantha B's internet, not us. So, Mama G here, guess what? I quit. I'm not working out anymore. I don't give a crap about my food. April Fools. I will care about those things till the day I die. I'm just telling you that right now. So, I was on live this morning. I suggest you watch that. That lives on our Facebook group. I did a cooking video tonight. It was about 5 minutes long, made chipotle sweet potato chili, delightful. So make sure you watch that. But let me reiterate the 5 F's, because we got a lot of new people in. We haven't talked about the 5 F's in a while. But the fact is, you got 5 things to think about in the Mama G lifestyle. One is your food. The nutrition aspect of this is paramount. Number 2 is your fitness. How you go about it is critical. Samantha B just gave you the whole breakdown of why we do what we do. 3 is your family, your friends, right? Your village. Those are the people that you model for. Those are the people that you inspire. Those are the people that get you through every single day. Don't forget about those family and friends. Number 4, your feelings. I can't even reiterate to you what we've been studying in school these last couple of weeks in terms of societal pressures, behavioral things that go on in our body that dictate what our foods look like. And I'm going to tell you this, nobody stands a chance if you're trying to go after it without a game plan. So it is rough stuff out there. There's a lot of emotional baggage that people carry with their food. There is a lot of disordered eating going on out there. As a matter of fact, the entire planet really sits in an eating disorder. That is why we sit in an obesity pandemic. And then the last F is your faith. Okay. Now, I do not care what your faith is, but I'm going to tell you this. Without some kind of belief in some kind of higher power, something telling you on your shoulder, let's do the right thing, your life's got to be pretty screwed. So people already know my religious affiliation. You can follow me on my private Facebook page, Regina Fridella Cousin, if you want it. But I'm going to tell you those 5 F's are what should drive you every single day in terms of your goal of living a long, healthy, independent life. That being said, let me just share my goals, since Samantha B shared her goals. Got my programming today from Samantha B. I am 12 weeks out, my husband and I, from doing the Spartan European World Championships in the Dolomites in Italy. So Mark and I will be climbing up the Italian Alps, and then we will vacay for about 10 days after that. And there's a lot of training that's going to come down. Not only are we going to continue with our Olympic lifting, little cleaning and snatching and jerking and all of those things Samantha B and I are working on, but I got a lot of cardio, a lot of time on my feet coming up, a lot of mobility to keep this almost 56-year-old body in tip-top shape, because I too will be doing that race, which is going to be 15 plus miles, a good probably 5,000 plus elevation game, a multitude of obstacles in there. And then like Samantha B, we're going to come into a little biathlon in the middle of summer on our local beach, a little swim, a little run, and who knows what happens after that. So got goals to take care of. Coming into the day, we got a lot of people that we are dealing with in the Mama G lifestyle. We have our lifestylers who kind of hopefully are sitting pretty. Those of you who are in the lifestyle, understand this is the first Monday of the month. You get to check in with Samantha B and Mama G on the WhatsApp chat. We'd love to see a weigh-in. We'd love to see how your body's feeling, if your successes, any struggles. This is your week to do it, folks. So get on there and please connect with us. We got our experimenters. We've got experimenters that are continuing on in the 60 or 90 days. And then we have our new experimenters who came in a day with us. We have our slim down version of the experimenters who are still working their plan. This is a group of individuals who have health concerns. They might have PCOS. They might have some metabolic resistance. They might have insulin resistance. What other words am I thinking about? A lot of things going on there for them. So they're working a little bit different plan within the Mama G lifestyle, all using whole single ingredient foods. Let's get it right. And then Samantha B and I both have private clients that are working the program as well. So fact is that all of us, like Samantha B said, regardless of what your goal is, you should understand that whatever your calorie goal is your calorie goal, but nothing changes otherwise in terms of what your macronutrients are, that we are, the majority of us, the only people who aren't sitting in the 50-30-20 with the macros, 50% carbohydrates, 30% fat, 20% protein, are our slim down experimenters. It is temporary for them. Once they get to where they need to be, they come right back into the 50-30-20. So the goal of that, if you don't know, is a multitude of things. Number one is we have a lot of nutrition to get in. So we can do that by hitting 50-30-20. That 50% of carbohydrates allows us to get a hell of a lot of nutrition. All right, we are getting not only starches and grains, and remember that we are looking for, can I say it? I am looking for 100% of your grains coming from whole grains. I would love that. Now, on occasion, you're in a situation where you're going to eat a little white rice or a little white bread, or, it's not going to be so perfect, a little white pasta, but the majority of the time, I would love you to see you eating whole grains, whole foods there. But also that goes in that category are fruits and vegetables. When we look at the component, and then beans and legumes. So when we look at the component of those particular foods, incredibly high in fiber. Understand that fiber is what scrubs your gut. That is what's going to reduce our risk of colorectal cancers. It is not a joke, folks. When we look at the lifestyle diseases that are incredibly prevalent, that are the leading cause of death today, not only in the United States, but in the United States. I can't say what's happening in the rest of the world, but for the people who sit in the category of lifestyle diseases, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, why am I lost my mind? Blah, 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 colorectal cancers, and more. We can make an impact with those things with our food choices. So those carbohydrates, the beautiful grains and nuts and seeds and legumes and beans and fruits and vegetables are the ones that offer you the nutrition, the vitamins and minerals, the fiber the antioxidants, the phytochemicals that can really improve your health. So when we look at that, let's talk about a few things. I want to see variety. I want to not see you eat string beans every single day. I want to see you change those things up. Every single food has its own nutritional composition, right? So we want to get different things. They all offer a variety of things. You might be eating Brazil nuts because they happen to have a plethora of selenium. You might be choosing walnuts because they are a great source of omega-3s. Every food that we're talking about that we eat in the Mama G lifestyle offers you a huge amount of nutrition. So change it up. Take advantage of the seasonal fruits and vegetables. So understand this, really important to not necessarily be going after right now at this time of year, things like apples and oranges, because we can get those any time of years. And especially for those of you who sit more in what we call food deserts. And I can't even believe that I have to say this in the United States, but I know that as some of our East Coasters, you don't have the variety of foods that we have here in California year round. I can get anything year round anytime. But this is when you take advantage of the berries right now. Not only are they on sale, but you can get them fresh and they're in a multitude. We take advantage of the fruits that are in season at the time of the year. Number one, we're going to get more nutrition out of them. And there's no reason to eat frozen berries right now. Although I have no issue with frozen fruits and vegetables whatsoever. I hate, by the way, frozen vegetables. They're full of water. I am not a fan of them, but hey, if that's your only choice, get it. You know that I'm going to defer to organic when possible, though I will tell you that I would rather eating conventional foods than not having them at all if you're concerned about pesticides, all right? But we have things like the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen that will help us to make better choices. But watch the ads in your store. Pick up the kale when it's on sale. Pick up the berries when they're on sale. Do the best you can for your family. And understand, especially with the fruits, the frozen organic fruits are very inexpensive at the big box stores like Costco. And there's really no excuse not to be able to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables and grains and all of those things in your life. That being said, we have to understand that the protein aspect of this is just important, all right? Again, we talked a little bit about the balance scale. When you push your protein, then the fat and the carbohydrates go down. And when you push your fat, the carbohydrates and the protein go down. So we want to make sure that we're getting a nice balance in here. That is where the weighing and measuring is critical. Now, Mama G, she weighs and measures on the regular. Why not? Number one, I do have the luxury of working out of my house. I do have the luxury, as Samantha B had mentioned to me early, I don't know if we were talking today or yesterday, is that I have a really big pantry. I have a huge refrigerator and a huge freezer and a kitchen that I have custom designed so that I can do exactly what I do and love to do, is cook. Now, Samantha B, on the other hand, will tell you, her schedule is very tight. If they do their grocery shopping on Sunday, if they don't do their grocery on shopping on Sunday, they're screwed. I have another experimenter who yesterday was his food prep day. I have a young man in college who started with us in the experiment. Today, he had an opportunity to do a lot of food prep. You got to figure out what fits in your life. But the excuse of, well, I didn't plan very well. Well, guess what? It's a real deal. And the only way you're going to be successful is to get better at it. So keep it simple, stupid. It's really easy to do a little marinade of lemon and olive oil and garlic and salt and pepper and some herbs to your chicken. You grill a big bunch of it up. You have things like whole wheat pasta in the refrigerator, in the freezer, in the pantry. You have frozen quinoa and frozen brown rice in the freezer. You have canned beans which are low sodium available to you, so that now you pull together your veggies, you pull out some protein, you make a little bowl with your starchy gravy, and you're good to go. The same thing with your snacks. I don't know what to say, but guess what? It is not just you experimenters. that have no idea. Apparently, there are lots of people who are working the lifestyle who have been in the program forever who seem to forget that our snacks, guess what? Always a dairy/calcium, always a fruit, and always some kind of healthy fat. And I'm usually going to defer to nuts for you. So what does that look like in a really difficult situation? It might be a wedge of cheese that you have pre-cut and pre-measured so you're ready to go, and a piece of fruit. That's going to hit your bill right there. It might be running in the Starbucks and getting a soy tea latte or a 1% milk coffee and adding in a piece of fruit and maybe a small quantity of nuts. Again, if you don't know what your quantities are, you're not going to be successful. So, carrying around little portions that work out are really useful to you. I mean, when I go somewhere, you bet I take my little insulated foam cooler or soft side cooler with my food if I can. If I don't, I know where I'm going to go to. So remember, Mama G is here to help you. I'm working with one of our new clients today, looking through a bunch of links he sent me on restaurants that are near his place of business. And I've got some ideas for him as to what that's going to look like for the rest of the week. So we are here to help you be successful, but understand that you are the ones that actually have to execute. So don't make yourself nuts. Proteins are pretty simple out there. Mama G is a big fan of the vegetarian protein options. So you're going to see me posting a lot of vegetarian versions for you that include things like tofu or beans or lentils or broccoli or mushrooms or some of the plants that are higher in protein. I will add cheese in there at times. Even though I would have told you in my past life, I could care less about cheese. I'm really not a cheese lover, but a little bit of cheese that could up my protein and give me some fat to balance my macros can add a wealth of deliciousness to my meal. So when you're looking at your protein, when you're looking at your carbohydrates, I want to mention this to you. It's really, really, really important, especially when you are at home, to begin to learn and to remind yourself of what portions look like. That's why we weigh and measure, because you might be somebody who gets 4 ounces of protein a day, but if you have no clue what 4 ounces of protein looks like, when you go out, when you're not going to be weighing or measuring or logging anything, you're going to be screwed. So I really, really, really want to emphasize that you guys, especially you guys, because I know, because I'll tell you what, my husband got a little bit of the Mama G wife treatment, and Samantha B's husband, when he worked the plant in the fall, got a little bit of the Samantha B wife treatment, and that we did more for them than we would ever do for a client. Now, I have a young man living with us who is doing the experiment, and he wants to insist that he doesn't need to do any of it or learn any of it, because guess what? He has Mama G living in the house. And I told him, it ain't happening, buddy boy. You need to understand what it looks like. Today, we were both in the kitchen for our snacks and for our lunches, pulled out all the leftovers, and he starts doing his thing, and he has a chicken wing. And then he has some other kind of chicken on his plate with a bone. And I said, I don't know what you're doing there, Troy. Here's the deal. You need to use boneless, skinless chicken. I don't care if it's dark meat or light meat, but there's no way that, number one, you're going to eat a chicken wing. And by the way, a chicken wing is mostly fat. It is encompassed by skin that you cannot pull off if you wanted to, and very little protein. And then there's bones. So we have no idea what you're getting. Well, so he was all in a huff, but guess what? The details matter when you're trying to make change. So, when you're at goal and you're comfortable in the lifestyle and, you want to grab a piece of chicken that happens to have a bone on it and you want to pull the skin off it, and now approximately what your protein serving looks like, have at it. Mama G does it all the time. But if you're new to the game and you're looking to make change, you need to put your head all in the game. And I'm going to say this. It's not going to be as detrimental to you when you're looking at carbohydrates and at protein because, number one, we're using ounces. So the fact that we're weighing things by ounces, we kind of understand that the fact that carbohydrates and protein have 4 calories per gram of weight. We're not looking at crazy big numbers compared to when we look at fat. That, by the way, have 9 calories per gram of weight. So you have to be very careful when you're looking at nuts, when you're looking at oil, when you're looking at avocado, when you're looking at cheese, because you get your proportion off, you could easily eat several hundred extra calories, which will kind of defeat our purpose. Plus, it will completely skew your macros in the wrong way. So a couple things for reminders for all of us, whether you're new or old in the program, is, and my sister did a perfect example today. She's just kind of coming into logging her food. She was going to have her snack. I said, you know what a snack is. Don't make me remind you again, dairy, fruit, and nuts. So she logs it. She tells me to look at her MyFitnessPal, and what do I see? I see a tangerine, and I see, what did I see? And I saw some kind of, yogurt, non-fat. I'm like, what happened to the nuts? And she says, well, I wasn't going to have them today. See, that's not like really an option. Now we have a meal that is basically 0 fat, right? 0% fat. And we have extremely high carbohydrate because the yogurt is a protein source and a carbohydrate source. And then we have the tangerine. So what's that going to do to your blood sugar? And by the way, you're going to be starving because protein and fat give you satiety. It makes you feel full, gets you through your snack and to the next meal. And so you're going to be clamoring for food. So number one, going to remind you, that's the beauty of having Mama G look at your food diaries on a regular basis. And you got to measure. So she said, okay, I'm going to put in my nuts. So I don't even know what nut she put. When I looked at it, it said 12 calories worth of nuts. And then when I actually clicked on it, which I can actually look at the particular food, and you can do this too, it said 12 calories and it said 1/4 cup walnuts. Well, every single one of you knows that 1/4 cup of walnuts is 100% not 12 calories. So here's your warning. MyFitnessPal is by no means perfect. So initially, you pick up the package of your nuts or whatever you're eating, and you look at it and go, okay, it's saying a serving is 1 ounce. Even though this is 200 calories, I'm not going to eat that much. Now you know I've got to use grams when I'm talking about fats. All right, you got to use grams. You men might get yourself an ounce, all right, of a cheese, maybe even 2 ounces. You might get yourself an ounce of nuts. But I'm going to tell you else, everybody else working the program will only get grams. Sometimes you only get 8 stinking grams of a nut. And by the way, it's barely a tablespoon, but it's enough to give you that healthy fat, add some crunch to your yogurt berry concoction there. And it really adds a great, nutritious, delicious component to it. But the fact is, you got to get the numbers right. So every single time, first time you put something in the MyFitnessPal, make sure that that nutrition label correlates what MyFitnessPal says. All right. There is a green check mark, which we thought was kind of the verified things, but I'm telling you right now, I don't trust anything anymore. And MyFitnessPal is very intuitive. Once you put something in, once you find that raw zucchini ounces, every time you write zucchini, that will come to the top of the mix. I don't know why zucchini raw is the most difficult thing to find on MyFitnessPal, but you will find it. So when I'm working with you, I may say to you, enter it this way. I may say almonds, salted and roasted, ounce or gram or whatever I'm going to tell you. That's because I know exactly how you find the way to get the particular ingredient you want. And by the way, when you scan things with MyFitnessPal, it is not always going to work and it is not always going to be correct. So make sure you look at that nutrition label. Make sure you look at it on MyFitnessPal and make sure everything jives as well. I'm trying to think about what else came up in the last couple of days with some of our clients. But when you're at home weighing and measuring, the goal is, once you get to goal, is that this stuff becomes second nature. Mama G knows every day what her urobrecchia looks like. Okay, what changes for me is my fruit option, but always stays the same for me is that I use the Kirkland organic Greek plain yogurt. I always use the 7 Sundays muesli that I get at Trader Joe's. I always use my organic walnuts that are Costco that I get at Costco as well. And then my fruit changes by season. In the summertime, you guys know, I was literally obsessed with peaches. I didn't even know I liked peaches. I thought I was a nectarine girl. And when peaches went away, oh, I was devastated. But then I moved into pears. It was awesome. And now I've moved into pineapple and fresh berries. So open-mindedness, understand that, again, every one of those different foods provides you with a different nutritional component or components that are only going to give your body that much more benefit as you look to live that long, healthy, independent life. Let me mention this. So I talked about the fats and the grams and all that kind of stuff. So you guys know that my master's is in integrative and functional nutrition. And I will say, like, it's like a cool title because people think it's so great. Oh, integrative and functional nutrition. I'm going to tell you, those people, for the most part, they're nuts. All right. So I talked to a potential new client today who has a lot of different health concerns, but mostly she's somebody who is just so tired and fatigued and feels terrible and really is ready to get her life back. And she's been seeing this nutritionist, she told me. And then after I heard everything that she had to say, I said, are you seeing like a integrative or functional kind of practitioner? And she's like, yeah, it's a holistic nutritioner. And I'm like, oh, perfect. So be careful. All right. Number one, Samantha B and I talk about this all the time. Defer to the experts. All right. So, you are not going to get everything from us in one day, but over the course of a few months or a year or whatever that looks like for you. Samantha B and Mama G, we get wiser as our time goes on, and we do our due diligence. We do a lot of continuing education. We do a lot of reading, and we really look at science and evidence when it comes to nutrition and fitness as well. But when you look at the holistic and integrated and functional nutrition world, when you have the quacks that are practicing nutrition, I'm going to tell you this. Number one, when you're going to go there, they're going to do a hell of a lot of tests that there is very little efficacy about, and they're going to cost you a lot of money. And by the way, your insurance will not cover it. So Mama G will always defer to the things she has asked all of you to provide, which is a CBC. So we can look at your basic blood panel. We're going to look at blood lipids because we want to see how you're doing with your cholesterol and HDL and LDL. We're going to look at fasting glucose and A1C. These are all very relevant tools to help us kind of get a general sense of how your body's doing. And we're going to look at vitamin D. These are all generic tests that can be done under the care of your primary care or your internist that your insurance will have no issue doing at least once a year and potentially every 3 months if you've had any red flags. So that's a step one for us. I may end up referring you out to a gastroenterologist. We may have to look into some other issues if after about 30 days with Mama G working the experiment, we're not seeing any resolution. So in the integrative and functional world, Mama G style, we do look to how to promote gut health. So one of the first things we do is we look to removing all the problematic foods. Now, in the integrative and functional holistic world, they're going to get rid of gluten, they're going to get rid of dairy, they're going to get rid of lectins, they're going to get rid of a multitude of food. They're going to scare you and demonize food groups. And I'm going to tell you this, you are not going to see that from Mama G. I want you to be open-minded. I want you, even though I had a client say to me, I have 99 different allergies. And I said, well, unless you tell me that you have celiac disease, which is a gluten allergy, which you could die from, like an anaphylactic, reaction type of thing. then if we're going to work together, we're going to be open-minded to all foods. Because what I have seen, not only in the literature, but mostly anecdotally with Mama G and her clients all of these years, is when we remove the crap, the highly processed foods, the artificial sweeteners, the chemicals, the blah, 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 life changes dramatically for our clients. And so that's where we need you to be open-minded. Like Samantha B said a few minutes ago, it's like, you came to us for a reason, whether somebody coerced you, twisted your arm, or whether you came to us because you truly are sick and tired. The fact is that what you've been doing hasn't worked. So now together we experiment and we live this Mama G lifestyle with the goal of what. So Samantha B, where are you? Come back. Come out, wherever you are. Unmute yourself.
This is Samantha B, and you are better for the rest.
And what Mama G always says, it is not about what you lose, folks. It is 100% about what you gain. Go have a beautiful evening.